Hi, welcome to Transverse Unfiltered. I'm your host, Amber, and today we're going to talk about going out. I would like to welcome to the discussion Allison.
Thank you.
She is a transgender woman who is going to share her own thoughts and her own unique perspectives on our conversation today. And I want to do a special thanks to everyone for all of their support, all of the shares. And we have gotten some great feedback, the comments, the emails. Just keep them coming. We love hearing from each and every one of you. So, Allison, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you have come to be such dear friends for Phoenix and I.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me here today. And
Yes.
It is a pleasure to be your very first special guest on the show.
Yes.
So thank you very much. And thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm Allison. I am a transgender woman. I am 48 years old. And I have been now on my journey for about a little over 3 years now. And how did I come to becoming such dear friends? That is a very unique story. So upon my journey of self-discovery and discovering who I was, after I realized that I was transgender and started on my journey, I reached out and looked for resources online, on social media, and I was finding various different groups that claimed to be LGBT or focused on transgender and transgender issues specifically. But most of the groups that I found were filled with people that were posing, they were fakes, and a lot of mixture, and there was a lot of discussions, and a lot of people were hitting on other people, and things got off topic. And I couldn't really find any group out there that was reaching the need that I needed. So I decided, if it's not there, to create a group that caters for this need, knowing that there's probably others out there like myself. So I created a group called Transforce on Facebook, and I kept it as a closed group to weed out posers, chasers, admirers, fanatics, whatever. And upon creating the group, I encountered like-minded individuals like myself. And I got to know a few ladies, very personal, and I set them as admins, and I had very specific rules that every request to join had to be thoroughly vetted. We vetted their profile. So one day we get an invite, a request to join from a person named Phoenix, and there was no profile picture. And as I viewed the profile, there was a lot of like-minded stuff, but there was no image. So to vet the request, I reached out to Phoenix's personal page, sent a instant message, and started this talking. Come to find out, Phoenix is from the same area that that you all were from the same area I'm from, and in the neighboring sister city. So I was like, wow, I'm not the only one. So we approved Phoenix, and I vouched for Phoenix, and over time we have just been talking and getting to know each other. And then about a month after that request, after getting to know Phoenix and talking to her, you and Phoenix and a group of others were going out to a restaurant. And up until that time, I had been out only to a couple clubs, and I wasn't really comfortable going out in public, and was a little nervous. And Phoenix said, hey, we're going out to a restaurant. We'd like for you to come with us. And she was saying, if you say no, we're going to come to your house and kidnap you and take you with us.
Okay.
So I ended up going, and ended up meeting you for the first time and having conversations with you, as well as meeting several other individuals.
Yeah.
And then from there, we just stayed in touch. Cookouts came over, and we've just created this bond of a friendship.
Yeah.
That's been amazing.
Yeah.
So that's how we got to be good friends.
Yeah, we enjoy your company. You're
Thank you.
a very pleasant person to be around.
Thank you very much.
Also, our discussion topic for today is coming from a transverse subscriber in Florida, who sent us an excellent question. I'll let Allison have the honor of reading the subscriber's question.
Okay. The subscriber writes, I've noticed what seems to be an epidemic in the trans community. How we so frequently complain about, how we so frequently complain about feelings of loneliness and isolation, yet we seem to ever show up for anything. I'm largely guilty of this myself, and I wonder if you've experienced that paradox as well. How have you dealt with it, and how would you suggest that we go about changing this trend?
Well, thank you, Allison, for reading that. There is a lot to unpack in that, in those questions.
Right.
Thanks again to our subscriber for the great question. I hope that through this topic we do shed some light over this discussion. I personally do not suffer from feelings of loneliness or isolation, but I'm not trans. Not that people who aren't trans don't suffer from this as well, because I hear a lot of people suffer from this.
Right.
And my wife and my son are, however, they're trans, and I can speak on their behalf that they do suffer from the loneliness, and some of the isolation. Do you suffer from any of this at all?
I used to. It's not as bad now as what it was. I used to feel quite lonely, and I felt like I was the only one. And with that, a little bit with the isolation, the loneliness, being afraid to venture out into the world or to even open up to anybody. I did experience that quite a bit.
Okay. So clearly some trans people struggle with loneliness and isolation, and if they're avoiding going out into public, or they're making commitments months in advance, being excited to go and do this particular event, but always cancel at the last minute, even for LGBT friendly events that let explore some circumstantial issues or challenges that might cause trans people to avoid going out.
Right.
So, what causes you to avoid going out?
What causes me to going out?
Like your insecurities.
My insecurities, one of my biggest insecurities is my voice. As much as I would like a more feminine voice, I have a more deeper voice, and it's hard. And sometimes I feel that I would be embarrassed or ashamed if speaking in public as my true self. So that's one of the things that I've dealt with.
So your voice, plays a role in not being passable enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Now it does.
So the wardrobe issues, do you ever have issues with that?
That's a funny question to ask, and yeah. I'm glad you asked. Like any cis female, I do. So last week for the cookout that you hosted, the bonfire that you were hosting, as I was getting ready, I open up my closet and I get out thinking what outfit I want to wear. So I get it out, I'm getting ready, I try the outfit on, put on makeup and everything, and I look in the mirror and I'm like, no, this won't work. So then I change outfits and I go in the closet and I get another outfit and I try it on. So by a half hour, 45 minutes later, there's 5 pair of pants laying on the floor, 5 or 6 tops tossed on the bed, until I finally decide on an outfit.
Oh. Well, I know Phoenix, she yells at the closet a lot. Her issue is not being presentable enough, as far passable enough, feeling like she has broad shoulders and looks masculine, or not having the curves that some women have, the hourglass figure. There are also times, just like any other woman, we sometimes feel fat in our clothes. So, sometimes, she goes through that, and I'll go and I'll help her choose an outfit. Sometimes offering her a piece of my clothing, I do that occasionally. But after she has her mini meltdown, she does eventually get ready.
Yeah.
So,
totally relate.
Yeah. You know, another thing that I know she has issues with is bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Going out in public, you know, feeling, safe and wondering if there's going to cause any issues or problems or make other people uncomfortable. I usually go to the bathrooms with her, but there are times where she will not go somewhere because it's not a good enough setting for a trans person.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's very, very, very understandable. And yes, I've been out and have experienced that too. And she's very blessed to have you in her life to support her.
Thank you. Yeah. Do you have any issues, like how, about getting clocked? Does that bother you at all?
In the beginning, it did. And I really, really worried about it. Like at first, when we first went out, or first come over here, I would be worried, like, what if the neighbors see me leaving the house? Mm-hmm. And they know me as since I've lived there as always being male. And I worry about that. Well, when I left today, I opened the garage door and I get in my vehicle and I drive out, drive through the neighborhood, and I don't set at the red light and not even care what people think. And I think for me, it's like most transgender people, it's a process of becoming more and more comfortable with who you are,
right?
And accepting yourself.
Yeah.
So at first I would like pull up to a red light and I would be looking every which way and seeing who was around, if I recognized any cars, and now I don't care.
Right.
I just stop at a red light, wait till it turns green and go.
With the experience that I've, had watching Phoenix transition, mm-hmm. the more she got to be her authentic self, the more she carried herself as feminine.
Right.
So I know there are people out there who are afraid to venture out, and, the more you do present, mm-hmm. the better you become with the fashion and the beauty. And I know that it's difficult for people to go shopping, without getting looks that you're some kind of pervert or mm-hmm. something like that. Or like it is awkward to walk up to a cosmetic counter and ask about any kind of beauty tips.
Right.
So, I always suggest, at first coming out, until you figure out your style, take another female with you, mm-hmm. Even if it's somebody who else is trans that's been presenting for a while.
Right.
And, I suggest, just take them with you, that, you have another female, that's helping you with the makeup and with the fashion, and just watch other girls, how they walk and stuff like that.
Right.
So, if you have that confidence, I feel like maybe people won't be so reluctant to go out.
Right. And I think a couple things that kind of tie together is most of the time we feel everybody has their little comfort zone that they want to stay in, mm-hmm. but you'll never be happy staying in that comfort zone.
Yeah.
And having a good friend, a spouse, a relative, or a good friend, somebody to support you in going out. So the first time that I went out, I was scared to death, and I was dating a lady, and she was very supportive, and I had talked to her about a club that was about an hour and a half away from here, and we'd spent the day together, and she's like, "We're going to go to the club tonight." And I'm like, "What?" And she goes, yeah, I think you're ready to go out. Bless you. You're ready to go out. And she said, okay. And so we went out after we got back from dinner. We come back to my house, and she helped me pick out a wardrobe, an outfit. And same things there is what to wear, what's comfortable, what looks okay with body shape and type. And she was very encouraging, and she helped me with makeup. And then we left and we drove to the club, and as we got out of the car, walking across the street was the first time I had ever been out in public as a version of my true self. And we go into the club, and it was quite crowded, and it was quite crowded. and she stayed beside me the whole time. And she was asking me, "Are you okay?" And we ordered drinks and sat and talked. And I had met people that I had met online, and actually got to meet the privilege of meeting them in person. And we spent a couple hours there. And after we left, it was a big sigh of relief. It's like, oh, this wasn't so bad. I had all this anxiety built up in my head, and then once actually going out and having somebody there, which I think is key to have somebody there to help you, really made the difference.
And having others like you.
Right.
Yeah, so your comfort level goes from here to up here.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know if you know this, Allie, but a lot of, there was a questionnaire that was asked to some trans people, and they said, if there's anything that you can do for a day, and there's not going to be any cis people around that would judge you, do you know the number one answer was swimming?
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
wow. I could see that.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of disheartening, that these people want to go and have a good time and swim, and the men want to just wear their swim trunks, and the ladies just want to wear their bathing suit and feel beautiful and confident, and they have to worry about the laser hair removal that's not done all the way yet,
right? Or
the other procedures that they haven't had done yet, you know, because transitioning is very expensive.
Oh, it is.
You know that.
Oh,
so, I just encourage people out there, to love trans people and just let them be their authentic self, especially if all they want to do is swim. Right. So, I was definitely shocked about that. Right. Do you have anything to add? What can be done so that people go out, like they actually go out and they don't cancel the last minute? Or
yeah, that is huge, because no, all honesty, a couple times, like even coming over and hanging out with you in Phoenix, sometimes I'll be like, that attraction of the comfort zone kind of draws you in, but what always wins me over is the companionship, to be in an environment where you're accepted as your true self, whether it's here in your home or at a club or a friendly restaurant or somewhere. That's the internal desire to be accepted as your true self, for me, wins out. And I know from speaking with some friends online that they're in a situation where they don't have anybody, or they're in an area where a rural area where there's no clubs or groups around. But I think one of the one of the key things is to find support. Find a support group. If there's a support group close by, reach out and join, and go. And everything's always hard until you do it one time, and until you in your head you have all these anxieties and all these fears, and you play all these bad scenarios out in your head. And how many times that you do that when you actually do it, you're like, well, that wasn't so bad. Right. It's all imaginative fear in your head, and then when you do it, you're like, wow, that wasn't so bad. I'm glad I went and did that. I think the key things that keep us from going out are maybe the lack of support in the trans community.
What about how long it takes to get ready? I know Phoenix, she takes a long time to get ready, because she has that anxiety about getting the makeup right, and wearing that right outfit that she looks feminine, and she's got to put that extra jewelry on because it's a comfort thing, Right. She's there's been some people that's come to her and wanted some guidance, and so, she feels like she has like this stigma to keep up. And I remind her, everybody has bad days, as far as, getting ready and stuff like that. And it would probably benefit to let people see you at your vulnerability. Right. Let them know that, you don't have it all together all the time either.
Right.
You know, so.
Right, kind of like the show that you're unfiltered. So
Yeah.
So we're going to stumble over our words.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have pauses, and that's just how life is.
Yeah.
It's not perfect all the time, so we're not going to look perfect. We're not going to be passable all the time.
Right.
But the most important thing is to be yourself and find your happiness and what makes you happy. And pursue that happiness. And
yeah.
I used to be very, very bad at this. I always let the opinions of other people, and then my thoughts of what the opinions of other people were, dictate a lot about my life and everything. And it literally kept me in a prison.
Yeah.
And so I was out in guy mode, or had to be in guy mode yesterday, out with my daughter. And my natural hair is growing out, which is growing really, really well. I am, in another month or so, I will no longer need hair assistance. And as I'm out walking around the store, I notice people are looking at me, and it was very obvious. People were looking at me all through the store, and I finally in my life have reached that confidence point to I've got to be happy. I've got to be me. I don't care what other people are thinking.
At the end of the day, as long as you're safe,
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter what anybody's idea of what trans is or their comfort level or anything like that. Everybody should be allowed to be who they are.
Right. So a key part of the question was people people struggling with loneliness. Nobody deserves, and nobody out there in listening to this. This video should ever struggle with being lonely and let that loneliness put them in a prison. There are professional counselors out there to provide assistance.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate after I went through a life-changing event to find an amazing therapist who really presented me with the question of, who are you? And I looked at her, and I broke down, and I'm like, I have no idea who I am. And she said, you need to go find who you are.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big things that will help people in the transgender community, no matter where they are, is get that support. Find a good therapist that is supporting of the LGBT community, that wants to help you or help them to become their true authentic self, and to help them grow and not try to change them or modify them in any way outside of who they really are, and find other like-minded individuals.
Even somebody to like push you.
Yes,
you know?
yes. To push you out of, thanks to Phoenix. Phoenix helped push me another step out of my comfort zone.
The first time she went out in public as her authentic self, I pushed her. You know, I took her to a wig store to get a wig. And I helped her, picked out some clothes. You know, sadly, she picked the style from the 90s. I'm kind of glad she moved away from there. But you know, the first time she went out, I pulled her to our local mall and let her walk around and to have that feeling. You know, she was petrified.
Oh yeah.
And you know, happy and exhilarated at the same time. You know, that she was able to finally be who she is. So, yeah, it's. I do believe finding that support and finding that one person that pushes you. And how many times do we say we don't want to go somewhere because we're too tired or it's going to be too much work to get ready? But when we do go, we're glad we went.
We're glad we went, and you never know, like
what kind of life-changing things will happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Going to
New
dinner.
Relationships.
Yeah. Going to dinner with you and Phoenix. There are several others that I met that evening at dinner, and we stay in contact and made some really cherish them and value their friendship and hold it in very high regards. Yeah.
Yep, I've definitely, there's been many times I don't want to do something, but if I say that I'm going to be there and I'm going to do it, I force myself to go.
Right.
Just because I've had so many promises broken to me,
Mm-hmm.
throughout my life, that I always feel that it's important to, try to do what you say you're going to do. Right. So I do that.
And the one thing about after Phoenix and I had started forming a friendship, her and I went to our very first support group meeting together. It was about 30 minutes away, and it was actually a Christmas party. And we talked on the way up, and we sat together, and I think both of us spoke up at that meeting to talk about ourselves. And it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight, but if you make a commitment to attend a meeting or a party or a gathering at somebody's house, do your best to keep that commitment, because each step you take gets easier and easier and easier.
Yeah, the fact, each step you take, it's like the better you get at the makeup,
right?
Because you're consistent. You keep doing it, and the faster you can become.
Like on social media, I get these pop-ups that'll say a memory from 3 years ago, and this memory will pop up, and I'll look at the picture, and I'm like, oh my God, oh my gosh, look how horrible was I with makeup, with eyeliner, with contouring, and it just, practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
And the first couple times are going to be rough, but so is everything else. You've got to get over that.
The first time I ever contoured was with my wife. We did makeup together for the first time. I think it was a couple years ago, and she actually printed out like diagrams.
Oh yeah. I on the makeup desk, I had the diagrams printed out and set up so that I could try to copy what they did.
Oh yeah, shoot. So she printed these out, and she kept them, all of them. And then every day that she went to do her makeup, she was looking at these papers.
Right.
Okay, where does the dark go? Where does the white go?
Totally relate to that.
But and the funny thing is, I could never get it down. I do not contour. But when I was doing the contour with her, she had to blend it for me. I'm like, how the heck do you blend this? Like, are you supposed to like mix it? Or are you supposed to just like dab it? Or are you supposed to like smooth it?
Yeah. So, you've got to blend it in. Yes.
So it was a lot of tutorials.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's another good thing, is a lot of tutorials.
There are a lot of makeup and clothing tutorials online, and yeah.
Phoenix came up with something, because she, when in the 90s, she was a teenager. So she was trans back. She's always been trans, and she just desired to wear these clothes. So when she got to be her authentic self finally, she went back to that. And she didn't know what her style was, so she actually like took a book and
she talked to me about that,
taking clippings from magazines and putting together outfits and trying to figure out what your style is. I
do that at the mall. Like I'll walk by Maurice's or a store, and everybody has their own particular style. So I'll be walking by the store in the mall, and if I can't, one of the things that can be a roadblock to keeping commitments and going out is a financial obligation. But as you had talked in one of our conversations about planning out ahead.
Yeah, it's a budget.
So if I don't have the money to go in the store and buy a particular outfit, I will take my cell phone and I'll walk by Maurice's and the displays in the window, and I will snap photographs, and I'll get catalogs in the mail, or I'll see something online, and I will snap a picture and be like, that's the style that I like.
You go to their website.
Yes.
They have stuff that's not in the store that's on clearance.
Ooh, gotta check that out.
Yeah, definitely do that. Right. That's one of my favorite stores too.
Yep. So what? Some other, like I said, the financial thing can be a hindrance if we let it, but attending a social gathering like the ones that Phoenix and I have attended, and I know some of the other ones that Phoenix have attended, really are not to attend the meeting are not financially
maybe just some gas.
Right, and inhibitive. And going to some of the meetings, what I've discovered is you don't have to go in perfect makeup and perfect clothes. You go as yourself, and the groups don't care what you look like.
Right.
They don't care how you're dressed. If you're a trans female and you're not fully out and you're not fully living your authentic self. And
there are some that go there that haven't even transitioned yet.
Right. That are
They're just looking for support.
Looking for support and information. Right.
Yeah.
It does cost. There is, I found that makeup is not exactly cheap. Some clothing is not exactly cheap either, but there are options. There are lots of thrift stores that you can get great clothing, and some finds actually still have the tags on them.
Yeah. I do have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
And
so ask away.
I wanted to know, when you're going out as yourself, rather it be to a bar or anything, after dinner, do you find it easier to go out when you're with other trans girls, or and harder to go out with cisgendered folks?
Okay, I think that, well, for me, I've been out to clubs with cisgendered women, and I've been to dinner and cookouts and things with groups, and for me personally, and it's going to vary from person to person.
Okay.
I'm actually comfortable either way. I think the key thing there is that you are surrounded by people who love you and people who support you and have your back.
Right.
So one of the things that recently was one of my high school class reunions. And after the third day, a few people in my class I had opened up to, and they were very accepting. But after the last day, I know a bunch of them were going to dinner. And later, after that dinner, I was looking through social media, and I happened to look, and on Facebook, the people list, the top 21 or so, top 21 plus people that I knew were all former classmates.
Okay.
And shortly after that, I had several reaching out to me, very, very supportive.
Of those 21?
Of those 21, yes.
Okay.
And that really, really surprised me and really, really touched me. And a couple people have said, when you come back to our hometown, we'd love to get together and go out to dinner or have a meeting with you. And I've got to, I want to do that.
Did any of them know that you were trans before?
No.
Okay.
No, nobody knew. I guess they, most people knew me as a quiet, person.
Kept to yourself?
A quiet, shy person that kept to myself.
Okay. Yeah.
And a lot of the support that I'm getting is all positive. It is very positive. And so I know for some, so it's I think each individual needs to build themselves a trusting core group of people that they can go to.
Yeah.
People that they trust and people that have their back in all situations. So it doesn't matter if you go out with all cis females, if you go out with a mixture, or all trans, or even go out with a group of gay men. Whatever it is in your comfort group, just you trust them and know that they have your back and they support you.
Right.
And it can be one, or it can be a group of 5, 10, 15.
I tell you what, though, them reaching out to you is probably, maybe they have no idea what trans people are like. They'll get an insight. Because there's so many stigmas out there of what trans people are. So that would be a great.
And I think that is another one of the big hurdles that prohibits people from going out, is because
you got that hair.
it is.
There you go.
It's flipping around. I think the stigmatism is people will only see on TV or Caitlyn Jenner, and they associate being transgender with with Caitlyn Jenner, and they don't really. Some people don't really take the time to get to know the person, and I'm very fortunate that I've had some great conversations really in the last couple of days with some people that I've gone to school with that are now becoming very close to me, and they are seeing my true happiness.
Yeah.
Because if people will just look at that and not judge and see that a person is actually happy and they're being their true self, who they were always meant to be, that would make a huge difference.
My wife's way more relaxed and since coming out.
Oh,
and pleasant to be around.
Yeah.
Before it wasn't always like that.
Right. So. And my daughter has noticed the same with me.
Good.
Before I would get a little frustrated with things, and I would be stressed, and I'm just calm, and I'm very calm. And
Can y'all rub some of that on me?
Yeah, I know.
That's funny. I do have one more question.
Okay.
Having focusing on your safety and focusing on your surroundings.
Right.
Does that do you get so focused in that it stops you from having a good time when you're out?
It hasn't. I haven't let that affect me, but it is very important. Right now the transgender community, and we'll get to a little bit of that in a moment. But there's a need for safety and when you do go out, to be aware of your surroundings. If I go to a club, I'm aware of the environment, and I went to a club and just got a bad vibe, a bad feeling, and did not stay long. And it's very important don't let it take away from being yourself, but also keep that in the forefront of your mind to be aware of your situation and your surroundings. An instance, I was on a date and went to a club, and me and the lady that I was with were going to leave, and the bouncer at the door asked us to stop, and he said, "I can't let you go out yet. Wait about 5 minutes." And we're like, okay. So we went back and sat at the bar, and we talked some more. And a little bit later, he gave the all clear. And when I believe that it was a transgender man, and when he gave the all clear, there were 3 of them at the door, and they escorted us to our car. And we got in the car, and they made sure everything was clear, and they watched us pull out of the parking lot and drive off. And I was like, wow, that they sensed something outside, or there might have been something happening, that they put our safety and security first.
Right.
And then they escorted us to our car.
Well, you definitely went to the right place then.
Yeah. I felt very comfortable and safe there.
Right.
And it is very important to be around or aware of your environment and where you're at, and not to put yourself in danger.
Yeah. I know that you've got some I can't even talk. Statistics
right.
to go over.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead and read those, because they were pretty shocking.
Yeah, they were very shocking when we read those. 1 trans person is murdered every 3 days, not counting suicide, accidents, or other causes.
That's a lot.
1 transgender person murdered every 3 days. I see in news feeds online and read news articles where there are transgender people murdered, and it
seems to be more frequent.
Yeah,
I feel
it seems to be more frequent, and it makes me wonder what kind of situation they were in. Could they have avoided it, or were they stalked, or the situation?
Yeah, I get it.
Right. 72 victims of hate violence, homicides are trans women. 72% of victims of hate violence, homicide are transgender women. That's just, that is shocking and scary. So there is a need to be safe.
I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah.
Phoenix is always pretty aware, and I was, I don't have to think about that as much.
Right.
So I kind of, wondered, in the past, like, is she just, being a little over dramatic?
Right. No.
But, the more that I read and the more that comes up on Facebook, about who else was murdered, it's becoming a lot.
Right. And 1 in 12 transgender people are killed in the U.S. And that's something that we cannot allow to be a normal thing. So
Yeah.
if 12 of us go out for the night to dinner or a club or whatever, there's a chance that one of us could be killed and just picked out because we are transgender.
I don't get why people even care. Why do you hate something so bad that you're willing to risk being in prison for the rest of your life?
Right. I don't either. And
I mean, they're not bothering you.
Right.
So.
When Phoenix and myself go out, we literally are and all transgender people are being our authentic selves.
Mm-hmm.
We've been in kind of an isolation, sometimes a struggle. For me, I until the doctor asked me who I was, it took me 2 months to figure out. And I sat up at night right after my daughter had gone to bed. I sat up at night writing thoughts and memories out. I drew diagrams and a timeline. And after about 2 months, it was staring me in the face, and I'm like, I've been transgender my whole life. I just didn't know it. And
did you know when you were a kid?
Well, when I was a kid growing up, transgender wasn't a term that everybody knew about.
You just thought you were different.
I always knew that I was different. I just didn't have a term for it. I had these, like, I had always liked softer, feminine things, but my upbringing and my parental upbringing was like, this is wrong, you shouldn't do this. So I had that upbringing in my head that was like fighting against thoughts, and it was a struggle. And then when my therapist asked me, who are you? And I drew all this out. And then when I went back to her and I sat in our meeting, and I told her, I said, okay, I was full of, kind of, honestly, I was full of embarrassment. I was in full of shame because I was coming out of a very turbulent time in my life. And I told her, I said, okay, I'd all written it out on a tablet. And I talked to her and I said, I'm transgender, and I stopped breathing, and she goes, okay, so she said, there's tens, if not hundreds of millions of men like you in the world that feel this way. You're not the only one. And I was like, wow. And then she gave me some information, and I started doing more research online. But it wasn't until that point that I knew I was transgender. There had been signs in the way I felt and thoughts and stuff growing up, but I always had this looming over my head. No, you're not. You were born this way, so you shouldn't have these thoughts. This is wrong.
The brain's complex.
It is.
If we can have, certain deformities or intersex people are born, and today they don't even choose. They let the kids grow up and then choose.
Right.
Why are people so against the thought that somebody can identify as a female, or somebody else identify as male, or whatever that may be? So.
I think it's just it's a learned prejudice, and it's also they're afraid of opening up and accepting.
Yeah.
And I just believe that they don't take time to get to know the person as who they are and give them a chance and see that person is happy. They just have this prejudice in their head that, okay, you're different than I am, so you're wrong, I don't like you. And
I believe that's going to change.
I think it's slowly changing, which leads kind of into the next fact, is that trans kids in grades kindergarten through 12 aren't even safe in our schools. An unbelievable 78% of trans kids experience harassment. 35 experienced physical assault, and 12% experienced sexual violence. These are kids just trying to be a normal child and trying to be healthy and just be themselves.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of I feel there's a lot of people aren't familiar with what it means to be a transgender. There's not a lot of information out there. There's a lot of hate groups speaking out and protesting something that they don't even fully understand.
Yeah.
And that's just sad. I can't believe
science is really trying to figure it out, pinpoint it. So.
It is, and I love the study that I've seen reports of and articles online where they've taken a brain scan of a cis-born boy and a cis-born girl and compare it to the brain scan of a transgender boy and a transgender girl. And
Harvard had a similar study.
Right,
Yeah.
and they come back and they said there's no difference between a cis-born girl's brain and the activity and a transgender girl and the brain activity, and the same with a boy and a transgender boy. They said their brains match identical. How can anybody refute that?
Right.
That blows me. But our children in the schools, I know when I was in school, I was bullied and picked on, and it kind of led me into depression and to be even more shy and quiet. I know it might be hard for you to believe, but I used to be afraid to talk, and a while ago there would be no way you could even get me in front of a camera. But now I've grown up and I've changed, and I just can't. I couldn't imagine today what it's like for children to be harassed in school just because they want to be happy like everyone else.
Yeah.
I mean that breaks my heart. It really does.
That's why I am big on being a big advocate for Jackson in school. So yeah.
And 71% of trans people attempt to avoid discrimination by hiding their gender identity. I was one.
Yeah.
I was one because it's
a lot of people do that with their jobs.
Oh yes, yeah. That kind of leads into the next fact that trans people are 4 times as likely to have a household income of under $10,000, and twice as likely to be unemployed, leaving them more and more vulnerable. Now I know for myself, I've revealed my true self to a couple people that I work with. One of the things kind of leading back to the isolation is I work remotely from home, and my interaction with people is, other than voice or intercompany instant messages, is very limited. And I know I've opened up to a couple people at work, and I've heard that my supervisor and his boss know that I'm transgender, and it bothers me. I've not had that full conversation with them yet, because about the time I think they found out, I've noticed they act a little, when they interact with me in messages and emails, they act a little, I can tell there's a big difference between how they act now and how they talked to me a year ago. And that really, really concerns me. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm the same person. I'm the same hard worker. I'm the exact same person. Why should it matter? No client sees me. They hear me on the phone, on conference calls and assistance calls when they call for assistance. But I work remotely. What would it matter?
Right.
But it does. It seriously concerns me, and it's a shame that on social media, I see posts from people that are trying to find employment. These are hardworking individuals. They're honest. One thing to be honest with you, years ago, I used to be one of those hypocrites that judge people without getting to know them. Oh, you're different. Oh, groups I interacted with and associations I was a part of didn't believe in the way you are, so you should be different. I was one of those people, And then slowly, my eyes, I met people and I was challenged, and I found amongst the LGBT community that they're some of the most kindest, sweetest, caring, stand-up individuals you'll ever meet.
Mm-hmm.
Because most
They're
people,
least likely to judge you.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And the last one, nearly 50% of trans people attempt suicide due to discrimination and lack of acceptance. And just last night on social media, I had posted a post that it was bothering me because just yesterday alone, about 5 friends had posted very negative posts on social media that they were about, I wish I could just, I wish it would just stop. I wish I could just go away and never come back. And excuse me, as I read that, my heart is breaking because why? Why? It's some of the greatest people, nicest, kindest, sweetest people that have no agenda
They're
towards
told
you.
they're monsters, basically.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and nearly 50% of transgender people attempt to commit suicide. I mean, that's an epidemic.
You know, my wife, before coming out, was at that point where she just didn't want to live anymore. She just wanted to disappear.
Mm.
And, you know, she said she would have never killed herself because, you know, she has to take care of her family. But she didn't want to live anymore. And that was a turning point for her when we went on vacation in 2017. Enough was enough.
Mm-hmm.
So she had decided she'd change her mindset. And I asked her, so what does that mean? Because she hadn't told me yet.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, you know, I don't know what it means at this point. Whatever it takes, you know. I just don't want to be unhappy and miserable anymore. And I'm glad that she did that. If more people did that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if they would just say, you know, enough's enough, I'm going to choose to be happy.
Right.
Because you can make new friends and you can make new family and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree because before, I've shared my story on social media before, that before I realized, and when I realized that I was transgender, it took me about 10 months to fully comprehend and fully accept who I was, accept myself. And then I was sitting at my desk working one day, and it was like the sun came out and shone down on me for the first time in my life, and I accepted, because I used to hate seeing myself in photographs. I still don't like my voice. I got to work on my voice, but I hated seeing photographs of myself. I didn't like my image in the mirror. And then slowly over time, now I take selfies. I have video chatted. A lady I dated, we would video chat several times. Even though she was just about 30 miles away, she would like to video chat in the morning before work, at lunch, after work. Even if we would see each other that evening, she liked to video chat using an app. And I was like, you know, a couple years ago, I would never have done this.
You know, the first time that we met you, Phoenix had told me, yeah, Allison's coming in guy mood. She said, I'll be the ugly guy that shows up. Or something about you being,
Yeah.
you had said something.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, she feels that way about herself. That is,
Yeah.
You know, and it was still fairly new to me, all this. So, well, I'm glad that you take selfies and video chat.
I'm happy now. I've found peace, and it wasn't easy. So as the subscriber's question, I can totally relate. And the one thing that anybody watching this video can do is get support. You can't.
Yeah.
It's something you can't do alone, because there's so much discrimination out there against us that it can be an uphill battle, and it can be overwhelming alone.
I actually had looked up some tips, since, you know, a lot of trans people have issues going out and
Right.
keeping their commitments because they just, they battle with so many things, anxiety, stress, depression, wardrobe, all those things. I wanted to, help make that one step further. So,
right, okay. Awesome.
It says, trust your gut. If you sense something's wrong and you feel threatened or unsafe, trust your instincts and remove yourself from the situation as quickly as possible.
Right.
We all have that inner instinct.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you don't feel safe or, how many times, there's been times where I tried to ignore it and something has happened.
Right.
So, trust your gut.
Right.
Leave a trail when you go out. Somebody that you trust. Let them know who you're going to be with, how long you're going to be gone, where you're going, and if
who you're going to be with, that person,
right,
that person's contact information,
and whether it's a text, a phone call, face to face, even a note. If you're not able to tell somebody, leave a note. That way, when somebody is, they come to your house or whatever,
mm-hmm.
they know where you leave them notes.
Right.
So that's very important. Find that trusted person
mm-hmm.
who's always got your back.
Right.
And there's strength in numbers.
Right.
Always do the buddy system. Remember, to the restroom, or if you're going out to and from, somewhere, waiting for public transportation. There's all kinds of things. It's very important that
right.
You have the strength in numbers. You're less
right.
likely to be a target.
Right.
If there's
exactly.
If there's more than just you. Be alert and aware of your surroundings. Stay alert, look alert, and stay near to other people. Locate 24-hour establishments to seek help if you feel unsafe. Know how to reach local law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Familiarize yourself with streets, alternative routes, and avoid dangerous areas. So basically, you want to educate yourself
right.
about where you're going to be.
Right. Familiarize yourself with the landscape.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're drinking alcohol, don't leave your drink unattended. Make sure buy your own drinks. If somebody does buy you a drink, never make sure you see the bartender
mm-hmm.
mix it up, or the bartender brings it to you. Don't take that drink that a stranger brings up
right.
to you. I really don't right. suggest that at all. And know your limits and don't exceed them.
Right. And don't try something new.
Yeah, because if you're vulnerable, you're a target
mm-hmm.
again. So self-defense. You always want to secure your home, your vehicles, at all times. Secure yourself, whether that's a legal gun, ownership. Make sure, that it is legalized and that you get the training that you need. And you want to conceal that firearm for your self-defense. You want to
mm-hmm.
carry pepper spray. Make sure you know how to use it.
Right.
People... And a taser. There's people that they get these things and they don't know how to use them. They don't practice or read.
Accidents happen.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yes. I mean, you could end up being the one it's being used on.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to,
a basic self-defense class.
Yes.
At
whether
a community college, a YMCA, or type that offers a basic self-defense class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
That is basic self-defense classes. They will put you in different scenarios when people come up
mm-hmm.
behind you or
right.
whatnot. So always avoid, try to avoid confrontation.
Right.
If anything, if there's going to be some confrontation, be smart. Remove
mm-hmm.
yourself from the situation.
Right. Keep a calm, cool head about the matter, and don't lose your cool. And if somebody tries to pick a fight, walk away. Don't lose your cool and succumb to their antagonizing of you.
Yeah. I have one final safety tip here. It says be informed. Know the laws and your rights. Trans people, you guys have rights too.
Mm-hmm.
Know where the hot spots of violence are. You want to be, where people are against trans people, just stay away from those. Learn and know how the law enforcement in that area responds to responds, and how they respond to the reports of violence and how they treat trans people. That's very important.
Right.
Support your local regulators and the LGBT initiatives. So that wraps it up for this episode here at Transverse Unfiltered. We hope you had found this discussion helpful and encouraging. And thank you again, Allie, for coming and hanging out and talking with me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me the privilege of being your guest.
It's nice to have another perspective, I think I kind of get bias, with my family. So, but if anybody has any other questions, make sure to reach out. I thank you so much for all those that do watch and support us, for all the likes, the following, the sharing, the subscribing.
What you're doing, Amber, is absolutely amazing.
Thank you. We do always have this show on Facebook, but we do also upload it on YouTube, and you can email us on transverseunfiltered@gmail.com. And again, thank you for watching from my family to yours. We love you. Until next time.